Hey, this is Pops, and I'm rewatching Star Trek, the original series. This week is Balance of Terror, and I know I briefly spoke about this with Nerdporio over on one of my Pops lives. That link is in the description, but that's a member-only video now. So let me give you a little thoughts, pros, cons, things I like or dislike. Here we go. All right, the thing about Balance of Terror is this is probably my favorite episode to date. That's right. So let me first give a lot of praise to some things that I don't always remember to give positive confirmation of, and that is the appreciation for technical things like lighting, the set design, costuming, even some of the makeup and stuff. There's a lot of work that's being done in this show, and I can see why people are very, very passionate about it because it has an amazing musical score. It has amazing moments that are dramatized. It also is very political and deals with a lot of socioeconomic issues, things like that, without getting into the weeds and really overly dating themselves or picking one side of the fence over the other, creating a major rift in the audience. It can deal with those issues in a way that creates conversation or discussions, create the allegory, but not to the point where it is divisive. This show is doing this very, very well.
I had no idea that history was your specialty.
Family history. There was a Captain Stiles in the Space Service then. Two commanders, several junior officers. All lost in that war, sir.
Their war, Mr. Stiles.
All right, Balance of Terror really, really hits a chord because it's our introduction to the Romulans, which look a lot like Vulcans, and that is done on purpose in the episode so we can introduce the concepts of bigotry and prejudice and that kind of thing. And Mark Leonard, while he does go on to play Spock's dad, makes an incredible introduction as a Romulan commander. Great lines. There's a great line at the end of the episode we'll get to, but thought this was fantastic. I thought this was a great way to introduce sort of like the adventure and action elements of Trek that we're going to have later on, the strategic command elements that we get with Kirk and why so many people are big fans of him. But here you have to do that with having a great villain, and they do that. They set this up very, very well.
Why does he not attack?
First, study the enemy, seek weakness. If I were their commander, that is what I would do.
Premise of the episode that begins with a wedding with Lieutenant Tomlinson and Ensign Martine. Right before there's this big attack, and then of course everything is interrupted, that kind of thing. And then we have a callback later on in the episode when he is actually Lieutenant Tomlinson is actually the only casualty of this big battle and this big conflict that breaks out. I love the fact that we have something that everyone can kind of relate to, whether it be a wedding ceremony or just real life type things happening, even in Trek. And it does seem like that's something they've gotten away from. They have like relationship dynamics in some of the newer Trek stuff that I had seen, but I thought this was actually very good. And then to create elements of loss and Kirk trying to be sympathetic, trying to deal with the tragedy of war. There's a lot of different things in here that I think are just done very, very well.
Full astern. Emergency warp speed.
As I said earlier, I think that the one thing the show in this episode does very, very well is it really starts to get into the action. It starts to get into everyone's roles, different strategies, how they can kind of maneuver around. We have this neutral zone that's been very well explained and established, what the Romulans are doing. Are they cloaked? Are they not cloaked? Where are they? How do we maneuver? What can they do? What can they not do? I love everything about all of this. I think this is really done well. We really get to see Spock also. He's really still not Spock. He's still not quite science officer Spock that we know and love, but he is evolving. We see a little bit of some of the other characters, but this is still mostly about Kirk, the strategy, which again, as a fan of Wrath of Khan, I feel like this is a great precursor to that. You know, mano a man, captain against commander. And of course, we have this great line at the end of the episode from the Romulan commander, Mark Leonard's character, who talks about, in another life, we would have been friends. You and I are of a kind in a different reality. I could have called you friend. And that's because he's declining Kirk's offer to basically take him and the crew and save him and all that kind of thing. And it's like, we're going to go down with our ship, basically, a self-destruct situation, that kind of thing. This is really one of the best sort of like episodes with cat and mouse and all the different things that you look for in Trek episodes. wanted to say real quick. Other than like the twirling motion on the side of the Enterprise, I really just love the ship. I just totally love the ship. And I know it evolves a lot more than this. I know it gets like kind of ramped up with technology. By the time we get to the motion pictures, it's even more prestigious. But I just enjoy seeing all the ships. So I'm talking like a totally little kid, little nerd for all that kind of stuff. So there are moments that I could at least critique a little bit. It's like they didn't quite exactly know what they wanted to do with the Romulan hierarchy and having the different sort of costuming and helmets and things like that beyond the Romulan commander who they wanted to look like a Vulcan. So I kind of laughed a little bit with sort of like uh, the helmets. And I mean, I guess this is supposed to be some sort of like cheap chainmail, and he's got like a over his shoulder, and I kind of laughed a little bit. So if there's some critiques and things like that, it seems like they didn't quite know what they wanted to do. So I'm not really knocking this as much over just quality or being cheap. I'm quality more of like I'm not quite sure they knew what they wanted to do here. And again, everything for me hinged in Mark Leonard's performance. It took what Kirk and the Enterprise and the crew and the storytelling that we normally get, and it's elevated by having such a great antagonist in this episode. I'm not trying to dog Charlie and Charlie X or Mitchell in earlier. I mean, all that's fine, and there's been great moments, but this one I think is very, very special. This right now, I've watched it twice. This is probably by far my favorite of the original series episodes to date. We'll see how things go as I continue along. And I just want to say these are the shots that I really do enjoy. The fact that there's like very smart decisions and strategic decisions on how to light certain scenes to really try to have a dramatic impact of Kirk and what he's trying to do. And I know a lot of people that were not into sci-fi during this era. This is like a very groundbreaking program to get people into this. And this is one of the reasons I think it does work very, very well. Anyway, overall, I think this is, like I said, this is a great episode. I think it's one that I'd love to hear from you guys, what you guys think about it, what you would love to see and hear from me next. Appreciate you so much for watching. I am Pops.